It's the quote where the sources have said that he secretly hoped William would struggle so he would pick up the phone and call him back and ask him for help.
She carried them. For years, she absorbed the blows, swallowed the humiliation, and kept reaching across a gap she didn't create. She defended a relationship nobody asked her to defend. She held the door open long after everyone else had walked away. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was the last thread keeping the Sussex Bridge from collapsing. That thread has snapped, not with a statement. Quietly, the way the biggest decisions always happen. And the moment it broke will surprise you. It wasn't even about something Harry did to her. It was something he said about her husband's dying father on live television. Here's what makes this story extraordinary. Harry hasn't accepted it's over. He's pushing harder than ever, and the method he's chosen has offended everyone still paying attention. No phone call, no letter, no apology, no accountability. The very thing he wrote a memoir lecturing others about. Instead, back channels, sources, intermediaries, quiet pressure, all aimed at Catherine, the woman his side spent years attacking, asking her to fix it, to go to William, to open the door, to do the emotional labor Harry won't do himself. Catherine's answer? Silence. Complete, unmistakable silence. So stay with me, because this is bigger than a family argument. This is what happens when you burn every bridge, waste every chance, then send someone else to beg for a ladder. This is why Harry's window has closed, why William won't answer, and why the most generous person in the royal family has finally said enough. If you want to understand where this family is headed, and what role Harry plays in it, which is none, you need to know what happened this week. Watch until the end, because the final piece is the one nobody's talking about. Subscribe, hit the bell, and tell me, do you think reconciliation between Harry and William is still possible? Let's get into it. The audacity of the back channel. Let's be very precise about what Harry is doing here, because vague descriptions don't do justice to the sheer nerve of it. According to Dan Wakeford, the former editor of People magazine and US Weekly, Harry has been working through sources and intermediaries to apply pressure on Catherine. He wants her to speak to William. He wants her to soften him. He wants her to push open a door that Harry himself slammed shut with both hands. Now, let's sit with that for a second. He's not calling Catherine directly. He's not writing to her. He's leaking through back channels that he would like her to mediate a reconciliation that he refuses to personally initiate. Think about what that says about his character. This is a man who wrote a 416-page memoir about the need for honesty, accountability, and authentic connection, who gave an Oprah interview calling for openness, who launched a podcast called Spare the Air, or whatever it's being rebranded as this week, designed ostensibly to start conversations. And yet, when it comes to the single most important relationship he claims to want to repair, he can't make a direct phone call. He can't say the words himself. He sends a metaphorical note through someone else and waits to see if it lands. Here's the part that really matters. Harry doesn't even have William's phone number anymore. Let that register. We're not talking about a number being blocked, though it probably is. We're talking about a number that Harry simply no longer possesses. And according to Wakeford's sources, even if he somehow got it, William wouldn't pick up. That is not a relationship on pause. That is a relationship that has been surgically removed. And the only person Harry apparently believes could change that situation is Catherine. The same Catherine his wife implied made her cry when it was the other way around. The same Catherine whose privacy was violated in Spare. The same Catherine whose name was dragged into Omid Scobie's book in a way so damaging it had to be pulled from shelves. The same Catherine who quietly fought cancer while the Sussex squad amplified conspiracy theories questioning whether she was even really sick. He wants her help. After all of that, he wants her to do the work. Can you believe that? What Catherine gave and what she got back. You have to understand the history to understand why this is so breathtaking. Because Catherine didn't stay neutral in the Sussex conflict, she actively tried to keep the peace. She was, by multiple accounts, the last person in the senior royal family still holding out real hope that the brothers could find their way back to each other. Wakeford himself described her as the most emotionally generous member of the family. That's not a throwaway compliment. That is a precise description of someone who consistently extended more grace than the situation deserved. She stood in the middle when nobody was asking her to. She absorbed tensions from both sides. She believed, as a mother herself, that the relationship between two brothers mattered. The children need to grow up knowing their cousins. That family, even complicated royal family, is worth fighting for. A source speaking to Celebrity Intelligence put it plainly: the only person capable of moving William past it, the only person who has the ability to always get through to him, is Kate. But crucially, the source added something that reveals everything. It's unclear whether she really wants to. That word, wants, is doing enormous work in that sentence. Because it's not that Catherine can't, it's that she may no longer choose to. And when you look at what she received in return for years of goodwill, the word wants lands differently. What did Catherine get back for her generosity? She got Meghan telling Oprah that she, Catherine, made her cry before the royal wedding, a claim multiple sources confirmed was the reverse of what actually happened. She got the Sussex squad tearing her apart on social media during her cancer diagnosis and treatment. People questioning whether she was really ill. People speculating about her marriage. People calling her everything imaginable while she was privately facing the hardest months of her life. She got named in Scobie's book, in a passage about who allegedly raised concerns about Archie's skin color. A claim so explosive and so damaging that the book had to be recalled and pulped. She got her private moments written about in spare. Her personal conversations turned into content. And through all of it, Catherine remained measured. She didn't fire back. She didn't brief against Harry. She kept the door open. Until she didn't. The final straw. A sentence on television. The moment Catherine closed the door for good is important, because it tells you something profound about her character. It wasn't about any of the personal attacks on her, not the crying claim, not Scobie's book, not the online harassment. She endured all of that and still kept holding out hope. She was Catherine. She was built for long games. The moment that changed everything was a BBC interview. Harry sitting on camera talking about King Charles's cancer diagnosis and saying openly to a journalist, to the world, "I don't know how much longer my father has."
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
Speculating, publicly, about his father's mortality, while his father was undergoing cancer treatment, while Catherine herself was also in treatment, quietly battling her own illness, confronting her own survival, and trying to protect her children from the fear of losing their mother. Harry sat down and used his father's cancer as a media moment. According to Christopher Anderson's new book, cited by Wakeford, Kate was the last senior royal to hold out hope for reconciliation. But Harry's public comments about King Charles's cancer diagnosis were her final straw. That was it, not a direct attack on her, a broader display of who Harry had become, a man willing to speculate publicly about his sick father's death while the woman who had championed his cause was in her own private medical battle. Wakeford captured it precisely. The picture that emerges is of a family in which the most emotionally generous member finally ran out of patience, and the most instinctively decisive member had already drawn his lines. She heard that interview, she sat with it, and she walked away for good. So when people ask, why won't Catherine mediate? Why won't she just make the call? The answer is, she already made a call, to herself, and the answer was no. William's line in the sand. Now let's talk about William, because his position is even harder than Catherine's, and that's saying something. A palace source was unambiguous. William was fuming, but was particularly upset about what Harry said about Kate. He is fiercely protective of her, and will find it hard to ever get over it and have a proper relationship with his brother again. Let that breathe. William isn't angry about what Harry did to the monarchy, or to the institution, or to the family name. He's most angry about what Harry did and allowed to be done to his wife. That is deeply personal. That is a husband's fury, not a prince's grievance. And there's a detail in here that takes this to another level entirely. William believes, according to those close to him, that stress played a role in Catherine's cancer. Whether that's medically provable is beside the point. That is what William carries. That is the weight he lives with. And against that backdrop, he sees Harry's pressure campaigns, the back channels, the leaked overtures, the media games as a direct threat to her health. He's not drawing the line out of stubbornness. He's drawing it out of protection.
William does not wake up thinking about being king, and there was one mention of his estranged brother Harry when it came to media and privacy concerns.
And here's what separates William from Harry in the way they handle conflict. William acts. He doesn't brief. He doesn't leak. He makes a decision, and he holds it. A source described him this week as someone who, as he's grown older, marches to the beat of his own drum. He has a singular perspective, and it is hard to persuade him to do anything he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to reconcile with Harry. He can't get over the betrayal. So the idea that Catherine could change that, even if she wanted to, even if she tried, may itself be a miscalculation. William has made his peace with this decision. It is settled. The only question left is whether Harry will eventually accept it. The George factor and Harry's darkest fear. Here's where this story takes a genuinely extraordinary turn, because running beneath all of Harry's reconciliation efforts is something much more uncomfortable. Something that biographer Andrew Morton confirmed this week. Harry is afraid of being overshadowed by Prince George. Not in some vague, theoretical way, in a visceral, immediate, personal way that has apparently shaped his decisions for the better part of a decade. George turns 13 next month. He's heading into secondary school in September. He is, by every account, growing into a young man who carries himself with remarkable poise. The public responds to him. He has presence. He is, without trying, becoming the kind of figure that commands rooms. And Harry is watching this unfold and, according to Morton, feeling something much closer to dread than pride. But here's the part that makes this truly revealing. We don't have to speculate about Harry's feelings because he told us himself. 10 years ago, right there on page 2 of royal biographer Angela Levin's book about him. His exact words, "I want to make something of my life. I feel there is just a small window when people are interested in me before Prince George takes over, and I've got to make the most of it." He said that in 2017. George was 3 years old. Let that land. Harry looked at a 3-year-old nephew and felt time running out. He saw a toddler and saw his own irrelevance. He had an entire decade ahead of him. Royal access, global platforms, institutional support, charitable backing, international goodwill. He had everything. And what did he do with the window he was so anxious to fill? He spent it on a memoir that aired family arguments in public. He spent it on an Oprah interview that burned every remaining relationship. He spent it on a Netflix documentary that his own family watched in disbelief. He spent it in court battles and counter-briefings and media games that exhausted even his most loyal supporters. He chose grievance over legacy. He chose revenge over purpose. And now, the window has closed, and the nephew he was so afraid of being overshadowed by is turning 13, standing tall at public engagements, carrying himself with more composure than Harry has demonstrated in a decade. And Harry is 41, fading from public relevance, showing up at a cookbook launch alone. Angela Levin said it plainly. You can't feel sorry for him. He had that window, and he wasted that opportunity with constant grievance and constant vengeance.
Harry thought he should be. He's one of a royal, not a working one, but he's still one royal.
Ask yourself, is there a single major thing Harry built in 10 years that has outlasted the scandal? Because I'm struggling to find one. The request that William will never forgive. We need to talk about something that hasn't received nearly enough attention, because this detail, confirmed this week, reveals the full depth of Harry's disconnect from reality. Harry went to William and directly asked, if he could be involved in raising William's children, George, Charlotte, Louis. He framed it as protection. He said he didn't want them to go through what he went through. William's answer was immediate and absolute. No, keep away. I don't want you anywhere near them. Harry reportedly pushed, just let me do a little bit. William held the line. Now think about why William would take that position. Not because he's cruel or vindictive, but because he understands something Harry apparently doesn't. It only takes one conversation. One offhand remark from Uncle Harry about how terrible the system is. One carefully placed comment about privilege and obligation and the cage of royal life. One seed of resentment planted in a child's mind. William and Catherine are raising the next generation of the monarchy. They are building children who understand their purpose, who don't see themselves as victims, who will step into service rather than running from it. George has already shown, in glimpses, who he is becoming. The last thing William needs is Harry getting access to those children and, intentionally or not, infecting them with the bitterness that has consumed his own life. The answer was no, and it will always be no. Meghan's gift that said everything. Just when you thought this story couldn't get more damaging, Meghan stepped in and removed all remaining doubt about where the Sussexes really stand. Days ago, a social media account called the Notorious JTB, one of the most aggressive Sussex supporters online, posted a video showing a care package he received directly from Meghan. Honey, candles, flower sprinkles, a leather bookmark, a limited edition matchbox, and a handwritten note on Meghan's personal stationery, complete with her royal cipher. Estimated value over $300. His caption, "The Duchess sent me a gift. Completely stunned, completely grateful." Now, who is the notorious JTB? Not just a fan. An account whose entire online identity has been built around targeting Catherine. He has mocked her advocacy work, dismissed it as mediocre compared to Meghan's. He has used images of Princess Diana to troll William. He has amplified conspiracy theories about Catherine's cancer. He has questioned whether she was really sick. He published posts after Catherine's cancer announcement during the worst days of her illness that are too vile to repeat in full, calling her names, questioning her worth, reducing her to a punchline. And Meghan sent him a personalized thank you package. Let's be absolutely clear about what this means in practice. Meghan didn't accidentally stumble into a gift-giving relationship with a random supporter. Care packages of this nature, curated, branded, personalized with her own cipher and handwritten notes, these are deliberate. They take thought, time, and a decision about who deserves one. You don't send this kind of package to a stranger. You send it to someone whose work you appreciate, someone whose content you value, someone you want to keep motivated and loyal. That is the part people need to sit with. Weeks before this gift arrived,
according to this headline, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, sent a gift package to a superfan.
Meghan was standing on a stage in Geneva at a global summit, talking about online bullying, about how harmful it is, about how she was targeted when she was pregnant, about the toxicity of social media and the dangers these platforms pose. She looked into a camera and said, "Be intentional in every moment that you like, that you comment, that you post, that you share." And then she went home and sent a handwritten note to a man who spent years doing exactly what she had just described as dangerous to Catherine. Pick one, Meghan. Either you know who JTB is, in which case this is deliberate and damning, or you've been lying for years about staying off social media, because you can't reward someone's content without knowing what that content is. Either answer is devastating, and notice what neither answer allows: innocence. There is no version of this story where Meghan comes out looking anything other than dishonest or deliberately cruel, or both. The Geneva speech didn't age well. It didn't even make it to the next news cycle before being exposed as performance. For William, who already sees every Sussex move as a potential threat to Catherine's well-being, this was not just hypocrisy, it was confirmation. The family will never trust them again, and this week made absolutely certain of it. The collapsing world. Here's what I want you to see clearly, because it's easy to focus on the headline drama and miss the bigger picture. Harry's world isn't just fracturing at the top, it is collapsing at every level simultaneously. Peter Phillips got married this week, Princess Anne's son, Harry's cousin, someone he was genuinely close to growing up. They played together, they shared family Christmases, they were real family. Harry was not invited. This is not a state ceremony or a diplomatic function where his exclusion could be explained away. This is a family wedding, the kind of event that 5 years ago would have been automatic for Harry, and he didn't make the guest list. A source said Harry is very distraught, not just about missing the wedding, but about what it means. Because this isn't one snub, it's a pattern that's accelerating. The cousin's loyalty has aligned with William, and it doesn't stop there. Look at the wider social circle. Idris Elba, who DJ'd at the Sussex wedding, is now firmly aligned with the working royals. The Clooneys are showing up at palace events. The Beckhams made their choice years ago. Jose Andres, the famous chef and close friend of Meghan, had a book launch this week that Harry attended alone. Meghan didn't come. The children didn't come.
And the mom of two also seemingly reflected on life prior to stepping away from senior royal duties with husband Prince Harry in 2020.
Not even a public show of support from the woman whose friendship with Andres was supposedly deep enough to feature him in her own Netflix series. Harry stood at a cookbook launch by himself, surrounded by people who were there for the chef. Think about how far that image is from where Harry was 5 years ago. He was commanding stadiums. He was on magazine covers. He was hailed as one of the most recognizable men in the world. He had a Netflix deal, a Spotify deal, a memoir bidding war, a global platform, and the goodwill of the international press. He had everything. And now he's awkwardly lingering at a cookbook event, hoping someone notices he used to be a prince. Last year, Harry and Meghan went 88 consecutive days without being photographed together. Hollywood insider Rob Shooter described them as living separate lives with no common interests apart from the children. That is not a rough patch. That is a structural problem. Tom Bauer described them as being at an unfortunate crossroads. Radar online sources use the word broken. Friends are reportedly worried the marriage won't survive. And the financial picture isn't any more reassuring. Moira Callahan reported this week that they may need to downsize from their $14 million Montecito mansion. The Spotify deal is dead. Netflix hasn't greenlit anything new after the original documentary.
But on this episode of The Circuit, we'll try to understand Meghan, the businesswoman. Just this year, she's launched a Netflix show.
Archewell is frozen. Meghan's As Ever brand, with its $255 jar of honey and flowers that die within the week, is being mocked rather than celebrated. Harry, for his part, is reportedly pocketing between $200,000 and $300,000 per paid corporate speech. That sounds like a lot of money until you try to maintain a $14 million property on it, and until you factor in security costs, legal bills, the PR teams, the branding consultants, the entire infrastructure required to keep the Sussex machine running while producing almost nothing of commercial value. Meanwhile, Frogmore Cottage, the home they renovated at a cost of £2.4 million of British taxpayer money, is being carved into apartments for minor royals, not preserved, not mothballed, physically converted, dismantled. The palace isn't saving a room for Harry, it is building over the space where he used to exist. If you wanted a clearer message from the institution about whether Harry has a future inside it, you won't find one. William versus Charles. The fight inside the family. Now here's the layer of this story that's not getting nearly enough coverage. The biggest battle in the monarchy right now isn't between Harry and William.
And I think they're worth every penny, and William and Kate very much are the future of the monarchy.
It's between William and Charles. Tom Sykes reported this week that William believes Charles is in danger of making the same catastrophic mistake with Harry that he made with Prince Andrew. William watched the Andrew situation unfold. He saw what happened when a disgraced royal was kept partially inside the tent, given occasions, given moments, and how every one of those moments became a PR disaster that the institution is still recovering from. William sees his father's occasional openness to Harry, his willingness to consider reconciliation, as directly analogous to the Andrew situation, and he views the Andrew outcome as total vindication of his own harder line. Once you're out, you're out. William isn't just refusing to reconcile with Harry himself. He is, according to sources, actively pushing Charles not to reconcile either. Reports confirm that a Harry and Charles meeting this summer is now very unlikely.
In an extraordinary interview tonight, Prince Harry has spoken candidly about the breakdown of his relationship with his father.
William has made his position clear to his father, and Charles, who is navigating his own health and his own legacy, is left in the middle, caught between the instinct of a father who doesn't want to lose both sons and the strategic clarity of a future king who has already done the calculation. The question that hangs over all of this is, what does Charles want? Does he want to see his youngest son before his health deteriorates further? Does he draw a boundary and hold it like William does? Or does he try one more time to leave a door open, knowing full well that Harry will read that openness as permission to push further and demand more? Whatever he decides, he's doing it without Catherine's support for Harry, and probably without William's. What Harry actually built. Let's pull back and look at this from the longest possible view, because Harry told us exactly what he was afraid of back in 2017. He said he had a small window to make his mark before George took over. He was right that the window existed. He used that window to produce Spare. He used it to sit with Oprah. He used it to go on Netflix. He used it to sue British tabloids. He used it to give that BBC interview about his father's cancer. He used it to let his wife reward online trolls who targeted a cancer patient. Is that the legacy he envisioned? Is that what he meant by making something of his life? Because here is the alternative. He could have used that window to build something that outlasted the conflict. A mental health foundation with genuine global reach. A veterans organization with real institutional support. A series of projects that, even after he left the royal family, would have made people say, whatever else happened, look at what he built. Instead, the decade produced a memoir, a documentary, a podcast that was cancelled, a Netflix deal that isn't being renewed, and a marriage that multiple sources describe as under serious strain. Meanwhile, in Windsor, William and Catherine are raising 3 children into exactly the kind of figures the public needs. George is stepping into the light with grace. Charlotte has her mother's composure. Louis has already shown the warmth and the wit that makes people root for this family. Harry said he was afraid of being overshadowed by George. He has been. Not because George is extraordinary, although he may yet be, but because Harry failed to become anything more lasting than a headline. Angela Levin put it plainly. Catherine has helped make William so much better. She has built him up. He knows what it is to be a husband.
Who has criticized William and Kate and bought her wine. I think they're talking about moi.
He knows what it is to be a father. She has helped him learn it. And then she said of Meghan, she has made him hate his family. She has fed the bitterness. She has kept on and on and on. 2 women, 2 very different choices, 2 very different relationships with the men they married, and 2 very different legacies emerging from the same starting point. One built something. One dismantled everything available to her. History will not be kind to one of them, and it won't need to try very hard. The silence that says everything. Let's return to where we started, to Catherine and the back channel request, because her response is the most significant thing that's happened in this saga in months. She didn't pick up the phone. She didn't send a note. She didn't brief against Harry. She simply said nothing. And in royal terms, silence is the loudest possible answer. She chose her husband. She chose her children. She chose her health and her future and the family she has built over the wreckage Harry's side left behind. She is done carrying a weight that was never hers to carry in the first place. The irony is devastating. Harry spent years framing his departure from the royal family as an act of freedom. He sat in front of Oprah and said his family was trapped. He said he got out. He said he was free. So look at him now, sitting in Montecito at 41, watching polo from the sideline because he can't afford to play in tournaments anymore, showing up alone at cookbook launches, skiing in Aspen without his wife or children, leaking back-channel overtures to a sister-in-law who isn't returning his calls, no phone number for his brother, no invitation to his cousin's wedding, no friends in his orbit who aren't on his payroll. That's not freedom. That's a very expensive, very public form of isolation. And here's what makes it even more painful to watch. Harry has children. Archie and Lilibet are growing up in that house, in that atmosphere, surrounded by that tension. They are not seeing their grandfather. They are not building relationships with their cousins. They are being raised at a distance from a heritage that, whatever its flaws, is also theirs. That is a consequence Harry chose for them, without their consent, when they were too young to understand what was being negotiated away on their behalf. And the saddest part? He could see this coming. He described the window. He knew it was closing. He just chose to spend the time it gave him burning things down instead of building them up. William is building the future. Harry is arguing about the past. And Catherine, the woman who could have changed everything, looked at the full picture of what Harry has done and what Harry continues to do, and made her choice. No phone number, no wedding invitation, no way back in. The door isn't just closed. It's been removed from its hinges. So here is where things stand. Harry's back-channel pressure on Catherine has produced exactly nothing. William's position is fixed, firm, and backed by a history of betrayal so deep that sources say he will struggle to ever truly move past it. Catherine has made her peace with a decision that Harry forced her into. Peter Phillips didn't invite him to the wedding. The social circle has moved on. Frogmore Cottage is being converted. The finances are under pressure. The marriage is under pressure. The Netflix deal is done. The Spotify deal is dead. And Prince George is turning 13 next month, poised, composed, and standing in a future that Harry spent a decade trying to compete with rather than celebrate. If there's a lesson buried in all of this, it's painfully simple. The choices you make in your window define what happens when the window closes. Harry chose grievance. He chose revenge. He chose the short-term dopamine of public battles over the long-term work of actual legacy. And at every fork in the road, when he could have taken the path toward something lasting, he chose the path that felt satisfying in the moment and cost him everything in the long run. And now he wants the woman he spent years attacking to fix it for him. And she has said no, in the most eloquent way possible. Completely, totally, absolutely. No. Do you think there is any road back for Harry at this point? Or is this truly the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next, because this story is far from over, and there is a great deal more to say.